EAGLES, Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Monday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, back with another full week of content for you guys across the channel. We had some news over the weekend, and we have some things coming up here this week in the NFL calendar. So we will talk about some of those today. Johnny Mac, how was your weekend, my friend? It's good to see you on a Monday morning.
Pretty good, except hope everybody had a happy Mother's Day. Then the Sixers came on. That put an end to any good hope.
Yeah, that wasn't so pretty now, was it, John?
No, that was embarrassing. I don't know. There's not any other word to describe it. I mean, that's a failure that's a game that gets people fired, which I never like to advocate for, but I mean, that's just awful at every level. But, it's been that way. And
I turned it off when they were down by 34. How did it finish? I don't even know how it finished.
I bailed at halftime.
Yeah, it was bad.
I think, trash garbage time, they might have cut it to 30-ish, but they were down over 40 at one point. Ironically, the guys who never played a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that organization, that team, their whole existence. New York, everybody's upset because New York fans bought up all the tickets. It's like, well, in Philadelphia basketball and the history and the passion of this city and sports, and it's like, yeah, but, if you're bad, nobody's going to show up. And they're not bad. Obviously, they pulled out a miracle in the first round. They're not a bad team, but you've made bad decisions as an organization for over a decade, and people are tired of it. And meanwhile, the Knicks are really good. So I don't want to hear this New York this, New York that. They're really good. If they stunk, nobody's coming down to buy tickets. Or if they, went through a process, pun intended, like the Sixers, nobody'd be coming down to buy tickets. They just happen to be good, and people are front runners, and that's just the natural evolution of sports.
Right.
So I don't get too caught up in that, other than, the Sixers, the loyal Sixer fans that are there got to deal with that. But I don't know how you stop it. You can't force people to care. You make bad decision after bad decision after bad, and they wake up to it. You can't force them to care.
Yep. You got to take accountability in this life, Johnny Mac. That goes for more than just the Philadelphia 76ers. I agree, my friend.
Yeah. So it was ugly, and it was over 10 minutes in. I mean, they made, I think, 10 of 11 3-pointers to start the game, which is crazy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's a perfect snowball of they're incredibly hot, everything's falling, and the Sixers are about to give up, and that pushed them over the edge, and they just gave up. You'd prefer the Stars to fight more and fight through screens and play better perimeter defense, but they weren't going to do it because you just move up the vacation day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Johnny Mac, we got some good stuff here to talk about, too, in Eagle Land. Sixers bounced out of the playoffs, swept there.
By the way, 0 for 8.
Yeah.
Philadelphia sports. And
I mean, everybody's all, whoa, we got two teams, second round of the playoffs. Let's go. Boom. Just like that. The dose of reality hits Philadelphia. Tough one. Flyers swept. Sixers swept. All right, we move on now to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are once again the top story in town after those two teams get swept. Johnny Mac, we got some good things this week. We got the schedule release on Thursday for the Philadelphia Eagles, which means we'll probably in the NFL, but means we'll probably hear some games that come out early. They already trickle out a little bit early, so we'll see that. We had a report over the weekend from Jeremy Fowler. I read a bit about Keely Ringo over the weekend. We got some stuff to talk about here on Birds 365. Let's start with that schedule release coming out on Thursday night, John. Always good to see the schedule and kind of where the Eagles are going. And we'll play a little "It's a win, it's a loss," I'm sure, on a Football Friday this week.
Yeah, my favorite time of the year, that's a win, that's a loss game. I name it that for Mike Francesa because I just remember it. Just what did it's when it for some reason landed. How stupid is this? But I call it Logistics Day. Because you already know the opponents the Eagles have. So basically, you're just figuring out the logistics, time and place, and all that. And I look for themes. If there's back-to-back road games, back to back to back, which happened a couple of years ago, rarely happens. You look for things like that. Obviously, the Eagles will have a ton of primetime games. They'll play a ton of games off Sunday because they're one of the high-profile teams in this league. So you look for travel issues and things of that potential nature. So, but it's logistics, and it's important for people that cover the game. It's important for people that want to travel to games to make their plans. But other than that, it's amazing the NFL has made this into what they have because you're just revealing dates and times and TV networks, which is the most important of all.
Right. They're the ones who got it all boosted up as the TV networks. But hey, look, they've done a good job. And John, you just mentioned for those traveling to a game, I will say the relevance for the JAKIB Nation is we will figure out what that home opener game is for all the people who reached out to us and are doing the JAKIB home opener with us. So make sure you guys reach out to me. I will keep all of you guys posted on what that first game is. Once we get that, we'll be able to kind of figure out the date, obviously, and get some hotel blocks if people need those and all sorts of different things. So we are working on that. I did have somebody reach out to me over the weekend. Fredo, I'm not sure if he's in here for a ticket. So if we have a couple more, I will let you guys know. But if you do want one and you didn't get a chance to get one when we were doing it, you can reach out to me and see if I'll be able to grab a couple of more, especially now with the schedule coming out. But that's when it gets harder. That was kind of the whole piece of the deal, right? Was you get in early and you can get the ticket for a right price. So I will keep all of you guys posted on that. And Thursday night, we will learn of the Eagles schedule. I do think it's relevant, John. I mean, remember last year they had they have no back-to-back home games or something in the second half of the year, and then the year before that, they had the week 4 bye week. I forget. I don't remember exactly how it played out, but I remember there are some things that impact your schedule, the travel and things of that nature.
Yeah. Last year they didn't have a consecutive home games, which is weird. So that kind of, but yeah, it all bleeds together. It's, I was saying you go back to the Super Bowl season because we made a big deal about that and having to go to Brazil. And, you think about, you lose a home game to the Green Bay Packers and while playing the Green Bay Packers, not to the Green Bay Packers, but they lost a home game and your thought is, well, Green Bay is going to be in the playoffs. So maybe that impacts the playoff picture. And all of that is legitimate to question and wonder about, but it ended up, if you're good, you win games. It doesn't matter. And once they figured it out at 2-2, they won whatever it was, 16 of 17. So it didn't matter where they played, what time they played, what day they played, they were going to win because they were the best team. But in the world of parity that is the NFL, it can be very important. But if you're that good, it's not going to matter.
No doubt. Johnny Mac's a good point. Remember the week 4 bye. It's a good example of it. Early bye, they still win the Super Bowl that year. Is it ideal? No, but you prevail through it. All right, Johnny Mac, one of the stories I wanted to get to here in the opening segment before we get to Jeff Kerr today is Jeremy Fowler was on SportsCenter yesterday, okay? And he said this. I will give you the full quote. I'm hearing the two have hit it off, and Jalen Hurts likes how Sean Manion structures the offense, how he talks about how they're going to attack things because it's going to look different, Fowler said on his SportsCenter appearance. It's going to be more under center for Jalen Hurts, more play action than he had done in the past. So our sources have told us that he's at times been reluctant to some of those changes, but right now he's as open as he's ever been to some of those. That is your latest on the relationship between Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion, Johnny Mac. What do you think? You got that big McMullen grin over there. What's going on, John?
Isn't this just repackaging news?
Yeah.
And no offense. I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, I do it here, because I get, you have viewers coming in, viewers coming out. You get the same question. People asking you the question. That's just the nature of the beast, but nothing new. I mean, there's nothing new to this. And yeah, I mean, other than, optimism. This is, in baseball, spring training, yada, yada, eternal hopes. Everybody's hopeful. But same thing in the offseason of football. Now, the Eagles are legitimate contenders, so more fan bases, there's certain teams that have legitimate optimism and that could turn into something special. The Eagles, I think, are in that category. So it's right to have optimism, but this is not new. We've already known this. They're going to be under center more. They're going to try to be the Kyle Shanahan offense. He's been reluctant to do it in the past. If he's less reluctant, that's a good thing. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but that's a good thing. At least he's open to it. But none of it's new. So, but I'm sure you got to ask the question, and he answered the question. And that's the whole goal of this offseason. But other than,
so are you buying that his sources heard, that Jalen is more open to it, or you're not buying it? You just don't think it matters.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, he knows. He's a smart guy. He knows didn't go well last season. So the nature of football is not patience. It's the exact opposite. So something's got to change, and this is the change. So he better be open to it, essentially. And that was the reporting of the big story from Jeremy and Tim, was that, look, get on the train or don't get on the train, but it's leaving. It's leaving the station. This is what we're doing. So, it's almost a bigger thing for hindsight than anything else, because, why were you so reluctant to do it in the past? I think that's the bigger question. And
is it fair to wonder, if Jalen has just struggled with belief in all of the different pieces that have come through, and maybe not even as much from a personal level, but more of just it's a revolving door here. Like I can't attach my game to somebody who's most likely going to be gone next year. I'm the constant. I'm the common denominator. So maybe there's just a natural reluctance there, John, to buy into every single new coordinator or new system, a new scheme that comes. I think that makes a semblance of sense. Like, for example, if I gave you a new host 5 days a week, you'd be like, well, I'm not going to change based on my host. I'm the constant here. I got to keep it. I got to keep it moving, which would make sense. Do you think there's some truth to that, or some merit to that for Jalen?
Oh yeah, he's verbalized that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is the constant, and he's still the constant. And if he plays well, he's going to be the constant, probably past Sean Manion, to be honest. So, so yeah, I mean, and that's why I struggle with the whole philosophy in the grander scheme of things, which is, I'm more worried about accentuating the quarterback that I have than building a specific offense. And then if you look at it further, the idea that, okay, you did want a McVay Shanahan style guy and Mike McDaniel, but you were willing to go to Brian Daboll, who's not exactly that. So it didn't seem they were hell bent on running this scheme until they became hell bent on running the scheme, if that makes sense. So I'm more worried about it. Bottom line is, and people that watch this show know this and they hate it. Bottom line is, I'm more worried about the player than the coach. Always. Like, you know, to use the Sixers again as an example, you can blame Nick Nurse, and you know he might even get fired, unfortunately for Nick Nurse, but he ain't out there, man. He wasn't the guy. You see the exasperation in his face if you're watching the game. You know, you don't think he's telling these guys to hustle and play perimeter defense or rebound, or you know, I mean. I don't understand why people can't understand that the players are more important than the coaches. Like, I honestly don't understand that. And for me, it seems the exact opposite. And that's not just in Philadelphia, that's everywhere. All anybody talks about is scheme and coaches. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? And I thought the Eagles were smarter than that, and hopefully they are. You know, we have no evidence that says they aren't, other than the lip service in the offseason, which is fine. Again, you got to play two roles. You got to play public relations, and you got to play real. You know, okay, we're a public-facing industry, so let's be the beast, and let's go about our business quietly behind the scenes. And as long as you win, doesn't matter how you win, people are going to get on board. As you can tell, the difference 2024, you win, people love it. 2025, you don't win to the expectation level, people hate it. Passing offense is basically the same. The only difference is they won a hell of a lot.
Right. Well, I think you're obviously right about that point with players over coaches. We've talked about that, you know, enough is, like you said, for our viewers to know where you stand on that. But John, is there a degree, or to which degree does a coach, you know, become responsible for getting the most out of a player? It's one thing to obviously put it on the players, but to what degree can a coach help? And then to that point, to that answer, whatever that answer might be, to what degree have the Eagles coaches done that? You know, and I think that's where fans maybe who see what you're saying, but still don't love the coaches would maybe push back on, all right, well, I agree it's on the players, but this is professional football, and you do need great coaches to help, you know, give you an edge, or help take you over the top, or help, you know, accentuate your talents more and the players more, and, you know, the production of the offense, or in this case, the offense or the defense more. Is that fair to say? And to what degree are coaches responsible for that and capable of doing that in your eyes?
Well, you know, I've talked to enough great coaches, from, you know, the people that know are great, like Vic Fangio and Jeff Stoutland, on to the people that they think maybe aren't that great, but are pretty good, like Nick. And they all say the same thing. Your goal from a developmental standpoint is to take the player a little bit further than he'd get on his own.
Right.
You know, you can't turn undrafted kid into the best quarterback in football. You can't, you know, they have to have a base skill set. And then, yeah, it's important. And the Eagles have been better at developing players than most teams, comparatively speaking, around the NFL. So I think if you're fair, you can acknowledge that.
Well, is that more individual? Sorry to cut you off, but like that's more individual player based, right? I mean, is there a degree to which the team performance or the collective offensive performance, you know, would be drastically improved by a great offensive mind? Now, maybe Sean is that, but I think that's probably where my questions more lie. You're right, individuals. I mean, look,
drastically. Well, I think they can hurt more than they can help, if that makes sense. Like, I think you can screw up things a lot more than you can make them better. And people can argue that's what happened last year. That's fine. I think it's more of like a really bad coach can derail things versus a really good coach turning things around. Like, I think the Eagles offense is going to be better this year, for the simple reason that a bunch of good players had bad seasons. And I don't care if Sean Manion got the job. I would have said it if Mike McDaniel got the job. I would have said it if Brian Daboll got the job. If Josh Broussard, if Jared Johnson,
If
I would have said
Patullo came back,
they're going to be better for that simple reason. Guys are going to be motivated because they had bad seasons and they're going to bounce back to a certain level. I think it was Chase Daniel last, and people don't like Chase, even though he's a former Eagle, but he says some, critical things. He went back to the Kellen Moore era and put up this clip of them running 4 hitch routes on 3rd and 5, and they ran 4 hitch routes in a spread formation to open up things for Jalen Hurts to run for an easy first down against the Dallas Cowboys. Is that awful? It's awful when it doesn't work.
right?
Looks pretty damn good when it works.
Well, what would be your opinion on some of the great dynasties that have existed in the NFL? For example, the '90s Cowboys, led by Jimmy Johnson. Obviously, great players. Troy Aikman. Obviously Michael Irvin. Unbelievable players over there. You got that a big offensive lineman. What about the New England Patriots, where they win 6-7 Super Bowls with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick? How would you what would be your thought process on those and the coaching done for teams like that?
Well, different eras because you're playing a different game today. So number one, I don't, like I say it all the time with the West Coast offense. I push back because I don't know. It's like nobody runs the true West Coast offense anymore because they don't have the time to practice it, to install it. So there's, they borrow concepts, but you can't run the whole thing. You just can't. It's not realistic. It's sort of like college was back in the day because they had less time with the players, and now the NFL coaches have less time with the players, so they make do. And so now it's always a sliding scale. So if you look at it from that standpoint, from this standpoint, if you look at the best offensive minds, and I do think Kyle is the best. That's why people copy him. That's why Vic's the best, because more people copy Kyle than anybody else. More people copy Vic than anybody else. I've always said from that standpoint, either go get Kyle, like the Eagles got Vic, or, try to find the next innovative guy. I don't like followers. Because to me, and I've said this pretty consistently, then it becomes, however, I'd have to count up, but let's say it's 10, 12 teams run the same scheme. Then it becomes, well, who runs it best? To a certain degree, as far as, and you're never going to run it better than Kyle. Now, again, talent can put you over the top, which is more important. So he's not winning every year. But again, he's going to get the most out of his talent on a particular year in that offense because it's his offense and everybody else is a Xerox copy. Same thing with Vic. He's going to get the most out of the talent he has in that defense because it's his defense. And they evolve along the way, but they're really, really good. McVay is the most interesting in all because he's an honest guy. If you listen to him, and he tells people, same 7 to 10 passing plays, different formations, different personnel groupings. You're trying to make everything look the same. The illusion of complexity, which is his words, not my words. The illusion of complexity looks complex to you. It's not complex to them. It's actually very simple. So, this is the era of football we're in. So I'm not going to compare it to the 90s Cowboys, although, so maybe the better comparison would be the 49ers when they were good, sort of bleeding over to the Cowboys, because one was as complicated as you're going to get offensively, and one was as simple. Emmitt Smith, run the football, play action. Old school, 70s. In the 70s, you had all these dynasties, but that was before free agency because, so the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can say, all right, they won 4 Super Bowls. Look at their roster. Look at how many Hall of Famers on their roster that they had for a decade or more. Because they didn't have to worry about, their contract's expiring, we're going to lose them.
Yeah, right. But what about like the whole like all-star team, the all-star teams don't always win, and so to me that's always been, that's where the coaching and organizational and leadership and things of that nature come into play. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Well, generally when you talk about all-star or perceived all-star teams like the Eagles last year or even going back to the dream team, I've been like, think about that's usually about misevaluation. Like, why is Vince Young talking about dream team? Maybe Texas Vince Young in college. But you're talking about, all right, you're talking about Nnamdi Asomugha, who, is a true bump and run corner, and you're trying to play zone all the time. You're talking about Jason Babin, who's a sack guy and does nothing else. You're talking about Ronnie Brown, Steve Smith, DRC, Cullen Jenkins. This is a dream team. It's only a dream team because Vince Young, the backup quarterback, said it was a dream team. It's a fucking nightmare team.
So do you disagree with that trope as a whole, or I don't know if the trope is the right word, but do you disagree with that whole thing as a whole, that, all-star teams generally underperform or don't?
Well, no, I'm saying that wasn't an all-star team.
That one wasn't, yeah. But there are, and there's been instances in the past where great teams and maybe don't go the distance.
Well, you don't have to go back far because people think the Eagles had the best offensive talent in the NFL. Why? Because they're the highest paid offense. At one point, they were all, playing at that type of level. But again, the NFL moves quickly. So the misevaluation is people think they're really good. They weren't really good. Certainly last season. That's the misevaluation. And the easy, if you turn it on its head, well, the Eagles had the lowest paid defense. So shouldn't they be the worst defense? If the highest paid offense should be the best offense, why is the lowest paid defense? Why should they not be the worst defense? The Eagles had one of the best defenses because they got a bunch of young ascending players on defense who hit before their contracts came up and played at a high level. And they have a bunch of aging guys who performed at a high level to get big contracts, but are not performing at that same level for various reasons. Case of Landon Dickerson, obviously it's injuries. Lane Johnson obviously missed half the season. Cam Jurgens, yada, yada, yada. And then there's other guys that are just declining. Dallas Goedert as a blocker. Declined. A.J. Brown declined. For, maybe it was frustration. Maybe it was the knee. I don't know, but he didn't play like A.J. Brown has played in the past. Jalen Hurts didn't play like Jalen Hurts, at least in the second half of the season. Saquon Barkley didn't play like Saquon Barkley. Now you can say, and the low-hanging fruit is to say, well, Kellen got him to play at that level and Kevin didn't, so it's Kevin's fault. Okay.
So on a Monday morning here, J Mac is not interested in the new Jeremy Fowler bit that Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion are clicking on all cylinders, Johnny Mac.
That's not what I'm saying. Hopefully they're getting along. Why wouldn't they get along? Everybody tries to get along. There's been no adversity yet. That's when it's meaningful. Jalen's been through this before. He hopefully again, it has more to do with the player than the coach. Hopefully he's more willing. I think the key part of it is that, again, the constant affirmation that, he pushed back on this in the past. He didn't want to do it a lot. Is he more open to doing it? I think if that's the case, that's a positive. But, I don't want to turn him into a traditional pocket quarterback who's doing traditional play action. I think that's silly. So other than he's more open to doing something that he pushed back on in the past, which has been reported previously, I don't know how much new came out of it other than, hey, it's the off season. Go be optimistic. That's fine.
Well, Johnny Mac, I hear you. All right, we'll see what happens with Sean Manion and Jalen Hurts. It's going to be an interesting season, though, John. The anticipation is building. Add this one to that. So everybody's all fired up about this new offense with the Eagles to see what it looks like. And apparently, Jalen Hurts, I will read the quote one more time for you guys. I'm hearing the two have hit it off. That's Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion. And Jalen Hurts likes how Sean Manion structures the offense, how he talks about how they're going to attack things because it's going to look different, Fowler said on his SportsCenter appearance. It's going to be more under center for Jalen Hurts, more play action than he had done in the past. So our sources have told us that he's at times been reluctant to some of those changes, but right now he's as open as he's ever been to some of those. So that is the latest on Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff there. Let's talk a little bit about, I don't know if Jeff Kerr will join us today. He should. I don't know if he's.
Actually, his dad is sick, so hopefully his dad gets better. So we'll try to get Jeff tomorrow. But
all right, sounds good. John, I read an article this weekend from Jimmy Kempski. Jimmy Kempski does a great job over at PhillyVoice.com on the beat with Johnny Mac. He wrote an article about some of the Eagle players who could be traded, like that are trade bait, aside from the obvious of A.J. Brown and aside from, he put Tanner McKay, which, come on, Jimmy, they should be extending Tanner McKay. And he listed a couple names here that I think will be interesting to some people. Cornerback, the first guy he listed was cornerback Keely Ringo, which I think makes sense. I mean, Keely had some expectation here in Philly. He just obviously hasn't lived up to it at all. And now he's potential as a trade bait guy. And then Jimmy put a couple other names, but we'll stick on Ringo just for a second, John. Does that feel like the likely end to this for you with Keely Ringo, John? And what do you make of that?
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, it's funny. I did a similar story. So I kind of put,
you can go read yours.
I kind of put more people involved because I think, and the case I put at corner, I put Ringo and Jacorian Bennett. And I think because you've gotten better depth. Obviously, the Eagles were tremendous at the top at cornerback with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, but now you have depth with Reek Williams, also Jonathan Jones. I think people forget they got him. So, and not to mention Michael Carter. If you talk about the slot, he can back up there as well. Plus, you have Mac McWilliams, yada yada yada. Brandon Johnson's a guy people don't talk about. He's got safety slot versatility. So they have a lot of depth at corner, and you'd like to. Howie's become famous for these August trades, player for player trades. Last year was Thomas Booker for Jacorian Bennett. Didn't work out. From the standpoint of those two, if you're moving one of them, I think Ringo's got more value, and neither have tremendous value. But I also think he's got a role. Jacorian Bennett has no role. So if I'm moving a corner to a corner desperate team, I'd rather move Jacorian Bennett for the simple reason Keely Ringo is one of your best special teams player. And I get nobody cares about that. But
it does matter. I mean, we've seen Eagles fans should care about it. They saw special teams impact the Super Bowl not that long ago here. So
and he's he's turned into one of the better gunners in the league. Now you also signed JT Gray, who's been an all-pro. So they have a lot of different options, But at corner, I'd still rather move Bennett than Ringo. But you might not. You might have to move Ringo. So they're both on the trade block or potential trades. But because Ringo's got a role, and he's one of the best gunners in football. And by the way, he's still only 23 years old.
No way. Keely Ringo's that young?
Yeah, he came in so young. And think about all the COVID recent. He's still younger than most of lots. I'm not going to say most because I haven't done them, but a heck of a lot of guys who got drafted last month.
Heck yeah.
He's still younger than. He doesn't turn 24 till June, late June. So he's still really young. It hasn't been great at corner. And so I get why Eagles fans have given up on him. I think Vic's given up on him, to be honest. So it wouldn't surprise me if they moved him. But again, if I'm moving a corner, why am I screwing Michael Clay over if I don't have to? And I just keep him for one more year to be a gunner. And then he walks in free agency next year. That's right. True. Same thing with Bennett. He's a free agent if he can move him. Now, can you get anything for Bennett? Ringo certainly has more value. But I put those two in the same
You think Ringo has more value than Bennett right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's at least
we're talking about late picks anyway, right?
Yeah. You're talking about or more likely player for player. So you need a backup guard. You need potentially a safety. If you find that CJ Gardner-Johnson type thing. So you look at positions where there's some need, and just like last year, Booker, they had a surplus of defensive tackles and they needed a corner. So they tried to do it that way. And Bennett, part of the reason with Bennett, he's never healthy. So I put both of those guys sort of in the same category, that they'd be willing to deal either of them. And if I don't have to hurt Michael Clay, I'm not going to hurt Michael Clay.
I'm seeing your article now. So Jimmy puts Keely, you put Keely and Ja'Cory Bennett. I think that makes sense, John. Maybe one of them, whoever you can get back or whoever somebody's interested in that could get you who you want as a depth piece player. That makes some sense. To me, when you explain Ringo, I don't know that I'd want to trade him. I mean, I'm just saying you have to fill out the back of the roster. Like you have to, guys. I know you guys don't like Ringo, but forget about him as a player on the field on defense. You got to fill out the roster, one, and you got to play special teams too. Why not keep him?
Yeah, I agree, because you're talking about, like, you're going to have Jonathan Jones who can play outside corner, and he's going to be the backup corner outside. He might also be the backup slot, but you have Michael Carter.
Is that your anticipation for the main back? Because we've seen a lot of the backup.
Oh yeah, it's going to be Jonathan Jones.
Okay, Jonathan Jones.
Now he's aging, but you look at the contract and the money he's gotten, and he knows how to play, and he's going to be. That's half the battle with Vic. Yeah, he's going to be the top backup. And I think you're trying to replicate what you had with Isaiah Rodgers a couple of years ago. Now he's older. He's not, he was a fast guy when he came in. Obviously, he's probably not as fast as he once was, but undersized a little bit, just like Isaiah, but has played outside corner for the past 5-6 years. Just he's one of their better one-year signings, I think, because he just knows how to play, and he's going to be a good backup player for them. So you're talking about the last corner on the roster, and number one, if you're the last corner on the roster, you have to play special teams. Bennett doesn't play special teams, or he hasn't. He can, obviously. He's a corner. He can run. But he hasn't. This guy's one of the best special teams players in football. Why not keep him? Because the fans don't like him? So again, but you know, if you want something, you have to give up something of value. So my thought from that standpoint is if a team does want a corner, they would rather have Ringo than Bennett. But you never know. Because his film as a corner hasn't been great, and Bennett's sort of uncertain because he hasn't played that much. And when he did play a little bit, he was okay. That's why the Eagles traded for him. So you never know. But if I could, again, I don't want to ruin things for Michael Clay if I don't have to ruin things for Michael Clay. But if you have to do it, that's fine because you have to.
And they've done that a bunch recently, haven't they? Where they had like a good special teams guy and they just let him go or trade him or whatever the case may be.
Well, you know, you have to give up to get. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I still can't believe Keely Ringo is only 23 years old. Feels like he's been in Philly for freaking 4 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. He was so young when he got
drafted.
He was
super young.
And by the way, you know, another part, best ability is availability. 17 games, 17 games, 17 games. All 3 years.
Yeah, I can't really write off a guy who's 23 years old yet. Now, has he lived up to what we expected of him? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but I'm not going to write him off just yet, John. I mean, is that fair? I mean, he's 23 years old.
I take a shot on him if I'm another team. You know, he's got everything you want. That's why
I think Ringo would have benefited from that extra year in school.
Oh, yeah. You know, he would have been a first or second round pick if he went back to school. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, he runs a sub 4.4 at 6'2". He's, you know, over 200 pounds. So everybody wants long corners. That's why the Eagles drafted him, traded up, and gave up a future 3 to get him. And again, it hasn't worked out, but he is one of the better special teams players in football. Like nobody pays attention to the third phase until something happens. I don't think
people care. I think they pay attention to it and don't care.
Well, the team cares, you know, because you could win and lose football games that way. And the Eagles won football games on special teams last year with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter blocking field goals. And they've won in the past with Chris Maragos and Brian Bremen, players like that, tremendous special teams players. They signed JT Gray, not to be a safety, because he's a all-pro special teams player. It matters.
Well, we'll see what they do there. John, another guy you listed on your article of potential trade candidates or players for the Eagles, and I'm surprised by this one. We got to talk through it. Byron Young, you put rotational defensive tackle in a loaded trench. Now, obviously, the top of that is a bit, you know, it's a good position. You got Jordan Davis, who just got a big contract. You got Jalen Carter, who's on the brink of a big contract. You got Moro Ojomo, who is a seriously overperforming 7th-round pick right now, who's playing like really has been a really good player the last year especially, and I think has a bright future. So you got those 3 guys, but they don't really have depth, John. Like, why would they trade Byron Young, in your opinion? Because I think they're missing a little bit of depth there. You know, I think they need a little bit more there. Let's say
he's Thomas Booker this year.
Yeah, like, that was a shit trade. Sorry, Howie, it was.
Well, not necessarily from the standpoint of like he wasn't going to play here because Byron was going to beat him out.
Yeah, you can always use defensive tackles.
Well, I mean, they have Ty Robinson.
He's got on the field last year, including the ones who filled in for Thomas Booker.
Well, the same thing. He's a good player at a position of value. You have a surplus. So teams might want him.
Are you good with a 3-man rotation there?
Ty Robinson.
Oh gosh,
sitting and waiting like that. No,
the vanilla gorilla, Johnny Mac.
I mean, they drafted this kid on the 4th round, and everybody bails on him after 1 year because he doesn't get to play.
I'm just not relying on him to be my depth.
I mean, you know, to say that he can't step. In fact, I think that would be the Eagles' plan, that he steps into the Byron Young role. And remember, they drafted Uhar. They got to keep Uhar on the roster. I got to double check that actually if they change
do
that
they have
rule.
to? Oh, that would complicate things.
Now that used to when Jordan they had to keep him on the roster. I keep meaning I'm going to check with Brian McCarthy. They may have changed that rule. But when they had Jordan Mailata, they had to keep him on the roster. Now they may have changed it because they used their IPP exemption on Ular. However, again, and previously, you would have to waive those guys to get them back as the exemption, meaning you would have to keep them on the 53 to not waive them if you were concerned. So I do have to figure that out if they've changed the rule. But yeah, I think it's more to do with Ty Robinson, and they're not giving up on the kid after 1 year, and they think he's got a chance, especially to be with this group, and you want to get him on the field in the second year. And the easiest thing to do is that fourth role, that fourth part of the rotation. And you have Ular as well to deal with from the standpoint of roster management. So, yeah, they remain deep. We don't even talk about Brandon Graham anymore. He moved to defensive tackle. If they're going to let him come back, which I don't think they should, but until it's off the table. And you still have Gabe Hall and you still have Taquan Graham, who's a veteran player. I mean, they're loaded compared to other teams at defensive tackle. So to me, Byron Young is a good player, and teams will want him. And if you want to go get that safety, he's the player on this roster that's going to have the most value.
I'm just going to say I wouldn't trade him.
If you had the opportunity to trade a fourth defensive tackle for a starting safety, you wouldn't do it?
I guess I would, but they thought that's what we thought last year with the starting cornerback. It wasn't. You're not trading him for a certified starter. You're not. You're trading him for a guy that you're hoping can be a starter, and there's a much better chance he ends up like Jacorian Bennett on the bench all year than he is an actual starter. Give me the whiz kid, John. Cole Wisniewski as your starting safety.
I don't think people are going to be happy with that. I read about that too because I'm like, why don't people talk about Brandon Johnson? Like this Cole Wisniewski stuff, man. Come on.
The whiz kid. That's what I'm calling him. Wisniewski. Wizzy. Come on, Wizzy.
He's got to go through Marcus Epps. This is before they add somebody. He's got to go through Marcus Epps, Michael Carter, and Brandon Johnson. I think people forget with Reed, he didn't play his first year. He won over the coaching staff behind the scenes. So his first year he's strictly a special team or backup player. Like Cole Wisniewski's got to jump over a lot of people. And that's even before they make a move to get a safety. And I think they're going to make a move to get a safety.
Oh, remember when they got drafted, that was the one guy you were like, hey, look, of anybody on day 3, he's the one.
Well, yeah, because there are literally no other options.
Yes, I agree.
That's the only reason why. Could he jump over those 3 guys? Yeah, we're not talking about Ronnie Lott, Kenny Easley, and Steve Atwater. Could he jump over those 3 guys? Yeah. Is it likely? No. So, more likely he's going to be, again, a rookie 7th round pick. There's nothing wrong with that. Backup player and special teamer. Or practice squad if you can get him through.
The wisdom. All right, who else we got on here? Grant Calcaterra as a trade candidate, John. I think that one's pretty obvious, especially with the draft.
Oh, he's this year's Harrison Bryant.
Yeah, he might.
They almost signed the exact same deal. Harrison Bryant got about $2 million last year in March. Grant Calcaterra got $2 million this year in March. He just happened to re-sign instead of coming from outside the organization. And then after he signs, you get Eli Stowers. And you never know what's going to happen as far as injuries. You always know, but it doesn't look like there's a place for him, similar to what happened with Harrison Bryant last year. And you still have a bunch of guys, Daquan Wright is one of their best undrafted free agents. Don't sleep on that guy. They signed Stone Smart. Cameron Latu could be headed back to tight end. Don't know yet, but they signed a fullback, Carson Steele, so he might be headed back to tight end. You still have E.J. Jenkins.
Holy crap, man. This team's like tight end U right now. Johnny Mack's got some anticipation for the undrafted Daquan Wright. I didn't expect to hear that this morning.
Well, he's going to be on the practice squad. I think he's going to replace E.J. Jenkins on the practice squad. Would be my early bet as the developmental tight end. And then, it's interesting. Johnny Munt, I don't know. I mean, the people have turned him into, guy's never played more than 450 snaps or so in his career. And he's been around a long time. And he's, a fit for this offense, and he's a good blocker. And, I remember Kevin O'Connell a couple of years ago called him the best third tight end in football. That got a lot of hype. But remember, third tight end. He's strictly a role player. And if you can find somebody who's better and younger.
I doubt you're going to find somebody who can block better than him that's younger.
What about Latu? Latu at times was a beast to the point where I'm like, why'd you move him off tight ends? And the reason similar to, because he was an Alabama guy and he was a third-round pick and he was supposed to be a playmaker. Well, he's not a playmaker, but he can block. He's a big physical guy. And he's 26 years old.
So you like Latu more than you like Munt as that tight end 3?
Well, I didn't even know if they're going to move him back to tight end. I'm saying if you can find a younger player who can block, why not keep him? That's what I'm saying. He proved he can block at fullback. And by the way, again, the theme, I didn't know the theme of the show. He was a damn good special teams player too. So he's got versatility. He can play fullback. He can play tight end. He's a good special teams player. Why wouldn't you keep that guy? Now, maybe he can't do it, and Johnny's significantly better. That's fine. But I do think people are putting him in pen on the roster. I would still use the pencil for Johnny Munt.
Pencil for Johnny Munt, because that thing could be erased or crossed out. We will see what happens with that. All right, John, any other names you think we brought up most of them here? You also put Andy Dalton that you mentioned. Let me see if Jimmy put anything else on his. Jimmy put Ringo, Dalton, Calcaterra. So that's basically the 3 that we talked about as well. So, John, anybody else do you think on this roster that you think could be traded? Or
Tanner's in the conversation as well. But I think
pay Tanner. Pay Tanner.
Well, they're not going to pay him. I think no, you don't.
They thought they loved backup quarterbacks. You got a good one. You're just going to keep rotating them out too?
Yeah, they don't. They're not going to pay what Tanner McKee is going to get.
I got 3 years. I got 16 large for you, Tanner. What do you think, my guy?
Then you're getting rid of the starting quarterback.
What? $5 million a year?
Oh, why would he? I misunderstood. I thought
3 years, $16
million a year.
5.5 a year.
Why would Tanner McKee take that?
Well, what's he going to go out and get more than that?
Yeah, he is.
He's played like 2 games in his freaking life. It was a former 6th-round pick.
I don't care. That's quarterback desperate team. Somebody will give him easily into double digits.
I'm not interested in trading my guy Tanner McKee, man.
Well, they'd only trade Tanner if they could get significant value. The only way that comes into fruition is the Teddy Bridgewater situation, where somebody gets hurt right before the start of the regular season. Somebody gets desperate, offers maybe a conditional 3 that becomes a 2 if he plays. Then I think the Eagles would trade him. Otherwise, I think it's likely they trade Andy Dalton, because there's going to be an injury somewhere where somebody's at the bare minimum looking for a backup quarterback. And, they got Cole Payton now. And Howie said, we'll keep 4. He's not keeping 4 quarterbacks. And they're not cutting Cole Payton unless he shows up and is an abject
so we got a guy who's got awful throwing mechanics, never played in the NFL. We got Andy Dalton, who's like almost 40. And you think they might trade Tanner?
Only in that situation, as I said, they have to get significant value. But yeah, they have Andy Dalton to be the backup. Yeah, they would trade him. But I think more likely is the trade of Dalton, because it's easier to do. It's less, obviously not going to get you much compensation though as well. So, but yeah, I mean the whole idea of getting Andy Dalton is the flexibility to make that move if he can make that move. If you don't have Andy Dalton here, you're not trading Tanner McKee, period. End of sentence. But you have Andy Dalton here. So if somebody comes up and offers you a conditional 3, that could turn into a 2 if he starts 10 games and he's going into a situation where somebody's injured and he's starting. Yeah, they do that in a heartbeat.
I mean, you got this spread offense coming in. You got these receivers who play in space. You got guys you can line up all over the place. You got Eli Stepp, and you're going to get rid of Tanner McKee. I think that's perfect for Tanner McKee. I'd feel confident he can come in and win some football games with this roster.
They're not playing the air raid. They're not spreading the field with Eli Stowers, and they're not. Come on. They're going to play a bunch of.
Does the projected offense fit with Tanner McKee? Yes or no?
I don't know if Tanner can play, but from a skill set, yeah, he would be better to be a traditional pocket passer.
That ball comes out quick with Tanner.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Well, that's fair.
He's a better fit for that offense on paper. I think that's fair. Skill set wise, I'm not comparing the players because people will lose their minds. But
no, I think it just simply has to do with he's a guy that you'd feel confident about coming into a game that you need to win.
A backup quarterback like you got a Spotrac evaluation on Tanner McKee.
Do we have one? Let me pull this biatch up.
Spotrac. I'm sure. I don't know if they do, but
I'm going to see. I'm going to tell you in a second.
That's a ridiculous undervaluation of a player who's going to get the free agent. I mean, there's no effing way he's a Stanford guy. He's not accepting 3 years and $16 million, even if he's got the dumbest agent on the planet.
His agent is Athletes First, Austin Lyman.
Which ain't the dumbest guys on the planet.
They are?
No, they are not.
No, they're not. I don't know who. Is there one on Over the Cap, a projection?
No, there's no need for that'll come after this season. They'll do the projections, but and Spot Rack, if history is known, they will badly underestimate it. He is rep by Austin Lyman and Justin Schulman at Athletes First. But Athletes First is one of the top agencies in the country. There's a bunch of agents, more high profile agents as well. But so, everybody helps everybody in those big agencies. So I think that's Todd France's agency, but I'll double check. Yeah, it's David Mulligettas, it's Tori Dandy, it's Todd France. So those are the top ones. And then you have Justin Schulman, Ryan Williams, and a bunch of other guys. So, I mean, yeah, they ain't taking $16 million over 3 years.
I'll do it. If I'm not the GM, folks, but maybe you wouldn't want me as your GM. I would go to Tanner. I'd say, Tanner, you've played 2 games in your career, my guy. Lock it in. We'll take care of you. The city loves you. Jalen loves you. We love you. All right. You got everything you need here in Philly. You can raise your family. I think he just had a kid. I think he's married. Tanner, lock in. You can buy a beautiful home on the main line or in South Jersey, wherever it is you like. Buckle up, Tanner. We got you. Here's 3. I'll even give you 18. All right. 6 a year. A nice fat signing bonus. And stay right here in the city of brotherly love. John's not buying it.
Oh, my Lord. No, not going to happen. Not going to happen.
All right, dude. We'll have fun out in living in Minnesota or wherever the heck, or with the Jets. All right, Tanner.
Hey,
my brother lives up in North Jersey. Good luck paying $8,400 for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, yeah. Well, New York, I mean, everybody would like to be in Miami. How about Miami?
Tanner doesn't strike me as a Miami guy. He's a Mormon, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a West Coast guy. How about somewhere on the West Coast? But yeah, you can talk about, horrible. California's horrible. New York's horrible. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, all those states are horrible from a financial perspective. But when you're making as much money as these guys, that's Justin Schulman's job. He's not accepting.
Johnny Mac has taken a shit on my Tanner McKee extension. I am uninterested in the report that he could be traded.
Look, he's a 6th-round pick who's got a chance to cash in. He's going to take it. You can't blame him.
No, I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming the Eagles. Give him what you need to give him. Well, I think people think he's getting a Malik Willis deal. I don't think that's happening.
No, I don't think unless he plays, and he's got to play well. Then yeah, changes overnight, and then you're talking really big money. But I think at the bare minimum, if he doesn't even get on the field this year because Jalen's healthy, I think you're still talking about a team giving him a chance to come in and compete with double digits from an average annual value standpoint, just because it's such a quarterback desperate league. Davis Mills as well, if he ever gets free, are they going to work? Probably not. That's another thing. I'm not giving it. I'm in the same boat here. Now the Eagles know him better than anybody else, but I mean, if you want to make the bold move and say, "Hey, we're going to keep Sean Manion. We're going to have a shitty season. We're going to keep Sean Manion, and we're going to bring back Tanner McKee and get rid of the quarterback." I mean,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I want to keep him as a backup quarterback. He's a great backup. We always hear how much they value backups. They should. We got a Super Bowl in the mantle because of a backup. We'll keep him. Wait, they won't get rid of Jake Elliott for $5 million, and he stinks. Well, and he plays a lot more than Tanner McKee.
The problem with you is you're undervaluing him tremendously.
What do you mean? What are the other backup quarterbacks making across the league? What? I thought the dude Mariota signed like the biggest backup deal. It was like $7 million a year.
Yeah, that's two too expensive for the reason why the Eagles want to do it is to have a cost effect. That's why they drafted Jalen Hurts.
5.3. They're probably paying 5.3 collectively between McKee and Dalton.
Well, Dalton, I thought it was insane that they were going to bring $4 million in for the third string quarterback, and they didn't. That's the whole point.
What did they do for him? It's like 1.5 or something.
They took 1.5. Yeah. So that's the whole point. They don't want to pay Marcus Mariota money for a backup quarterback.
Well, they used to say they valued backup quarterback. Remember, they signed Mariota a few years ago to $5 million deal, and their explanation for that was precisely that. We value the
that's why they moved on, because it got too expensive, and they said, we need other aspects. And everybody in the league, the league you meant, so Mills makes $7 million, Mariota makes $7 million, Winston made $8 million. That's weird. That's a bad. Rudolph made 7.5. Mac Jones, that's a bargain, $7 million.
Yeah, so you're looking at all those names. I mean, you don't think Tanner McKee would take it? I guess more it's not about McKee taking it. It's more about you think Eagles wouldn't give it?
I think both. I think he wouldn't take it. He's got confidence in his own abilities.
Yeah, but he hasn't showcased it. You can have confidence all you want. I mean,
look, if again, it's almost better if he doesn't play, because the warts are not shown fully. And there's so many quarterback desperate teams. It's like, yeah, we'll take a shot on this kid. Already,
I'm not thinking about backup quarterback anymore.
And that's why they got Andy Dalton.
I'd rather pay Tanner McKee to be my backup quarterback than Jake Elliott, who's been a set bottom of the league kicker for multiple years.
It's apples and oranges. Backup quarterbacks and kickers. I mean, yeah, I mean, you could argue you shouldn't pay a kicker no matter how good, because kickers are like relief pitchers. They have a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. I have certain guys like Aubrey and the Alabama kid. I always forget his name. Will Reichert. But even those guys, when they get big deals, you hesitate. You're like, really? Do I want to give this to a kicker?
Was the Braden Mann extension a mistake then, by your estimation?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Definitely. Other than you can move on from it quickly.
I could see some shitty punts coming this year, and everybody's like,
I think he's a very good punter. I just think, that's a position that you can exchange easily. It's basically. Now, when you get a good one, it's great. And when you have a bad one, it's bad. So that's the Eagles' mentality. They went through Aaron Cepas, and now they got a guy who's really consistent. So pay him as long as he's good, and then move on. But those guys move quick. Jake Elliott's another perfect example we never talk about. This guy was the best kicker in football, literally. Second team All-Pro, but had the best season. And 2 years later, he was fucking awful. And everybody acts like that doesn't happen on offense and defense. It happens everywhere.
Yeah,
this league moves freaking quickly.
Yes, it does, Johnny Mac, no doubt. And here's Jerry. I think Jerry might be Jerry. Tell me you're with your boy Zay, and you want to keep McKay. He says, "What has John seen in practice with McKay?"
Well, I don't get to see practice during the season. So you're talking about training camp as we get to see. And I think he's done a nice job developing. And I think, again, the cloak of uncertainty actually helps him. And by that, I mean, you don't get to see the warts. And it's a quarterback deficient league. You see what's going on. Geno Smith is starting for the Jets. Kyler Murray is starting for the Vikings. Now those are, more proven veteran guys. But the point I'm trying to make is teams are freaking desperate for quarterbacks. Desperate. And that's why Houston didn't trade Davis Mills and the Eagles didn't trade Tanner McKee because they don't, they haven't. In the case, Davis Mills has played a little bit more, and I think he won all 3 of his starts last year.
Yeah, he did. Davis Mills. He was a good player with Houston before CJ came in. Remember, he had like a half decent year.
He was okay.
He was okay, but it was his first year starting. I thought it was pretty good for a first year starting.
And these guys are, and the Eagles, tend to draft a quarterback every chance they can. Day 3 guy. They did it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. This time it's Cole Payton. No, maybe he's the next Kyle McCord. Maybe he's the next Tanner McKee. I don't know. But the Eagles like him. And, it's tough to gauge quarterbacks when they don't play. But you can take advantage of that if he gets in and plays. I'm telling you, if Jalen sprains his ankle and he's got to play 2 games and he plays well, he turns into Malik Willis. That's all it takes in this league.
That got to happen for him this year because he's only started 1 game in his career and he's played about 100 snaps. So
no, they're both meaningless week 18. One was good, one was bad. And he's playing with a lot of backup players. That factors into it. One of the things that people don't factor in with backup quarterbacks is in the preseason, they play with backups. And if they're forced to play, they're going to play with the starters. So, that should help them. But, there's no way. Now, if it gets to next year, guess what? If he gets to next year and he plays those 2 games that I just talked about and he plays poorly or plays just average and he gets to the open market and the money isn't there, then you start talking about $6-7 million. Then they might bring him back.
Yeah, but if he plays like garbage, then the Eagles might not even.
Not garbage, but just average, just run of the mill, just good backup quarterback play. Good Marcus Mariota backup quarterback play, which is all you're looking for from a backup quarterback. But from his perspective, if he's not thinking I can be a starter in this league, of course he is. I mean, I talked to him about that.
You can be optimistic and confident, but you got to be realistic, John. Like you always say, one of the hardest things to do, and I think this applies to a lot more than just NFL front offices and players and people and me and you and listeners. You got to be honest with yourself. Tanner McKee
I think it is not crazy for Tanner McKee to think he could be a starting quarterback in this.
I'm not saying that, but he has not evidenced that at the NFL level.
Oh, you're not going to negotiate. You don't want a player like that, by the way. Who's like, I don't think I could be a starter. Let me sign here for $5 million.
Well, Chase Daniel did that for 20
Chase
years.
Daniel stinks. God bless him.
He does. But maybe Tanner McKee likes his brain being fully intact, and he is happy to be the.
I don't want that player. I don't want that player. I don't want that player. If he doesn't think he could be a starter, I don't know why you would want that player.
5.3 a year. I can't believe you're out completely.
This guy's got one chance to be an NFL starter.
If Tanner McKee would say yes, leave him out of it for a second. If you came into it with the assumption, if you came into it with the assumption that Tanner would say yes, would you, as the Eagles GM, do it or no?
Well, I would hate the mentality. I'd be like, Howie talks about red star guys and this and that. Like, why do you want that guy? What do you mean? You got one fucking chance.
Yeah, but John, you always talk about, rightfully so, that people
talking about organizations. I'm not talking about
people
players.
Remove the human element. He's a man. He's got a wife. He's got kids. It's not everything is about his evaluation of his football career potentially. I'm not saying that's the case for Tanner. I'm just saying there's a plausible scenario where it is. And he's like, you know what? I like my quality of life here. I am good to stay in Philadelphia and support Jalen and this offense and this team and have my career in Philly.
You are pushing hard for this. Why would this fucking guy do that? I mean, he shouldn't be a pro athlete if that's the way he thinks. I mean, these guys generally are highly competitive, uber confident, especially quarterbacks, who started at big time schools like Stanford, even though it wasn't as good as it has been in the past. They tend to be big man on campus. They're stars in college. I mean, I can't even fathom him having that kind of lack of confidence in himself. And I don't think you want him if he's got that kind of lack of confidence.
Again, I don't think it's lack of confidence. I just think it's the reality. He's 26 years old, and he's started one NFL game in his career.
Yeah, and he's got one chance to potentially compete to be a starter somewhere.
It's a big chance, though.
One chance.
There's no guarantee that chance.
Guess what? Guess what? If he fails, he can go back to being Chase Daniel for 10 more years.
Maybe not, though. Maybe not. We might see. All right, fair enough. I will lay off the gas on Tanner McKay. Okay. Here's Anthony Hunt. Reports suggest Hurts is all in on the new offense. Anthony, we did talk about this in the opening segment.
He's all in, people.
John made a mockery of it, Anthony. He thought it was a crock of shit, my friend. I don't know what you want from me.
I did not. I just said it's not really that. And, it's nice to know he's more open to doing things he's been less open to doing. It's nice to know.
I got it. I had to bring it up because I gave credence to Fowler when he reported some negative things. So I want to give some.
I didn't even think he reported some negative things.
Wow,
I think that was taken the wrong way. I don't think that was a hit piece as many people did. And I think Howie's unfair talk was more about the next piece, which was about the team sending him messages through the media. I think it was more about that than the Fowler thing. Yeah, I mean, I've said it on this show probably dozens of times. Yeah, he's not comfortable under center. Not comfortable throwing the football over the middle of the field. Maybe, not maybe. I think part of that has to do with the risk-averse philosophy being beaten into his head. So I do think the coaching staff is partially responsible for that. But they had a lot of success with that. So all of that basically, I think, was well known. And the aspect that I think Howie thought was unfair was the team sending him messages through the media, and I think part of that was to make the organization not look like they can't confront him and say, "Look, you have to do this." But that opens up a whole new can of worms. Do you really want to? Again, I boiled it down to this to be as simple as possible. Why would anybody ever want to build an offense around the deficiencies of their quarterback? And and by the way, I've been consistent. I don't think the Eagles will ultimately do that. I think what they're doing is trying to force him to get better at his deficiencies, not. In other words,
which in some ways, by the way, still doesn't really make all that much sense. I mean, your top priority is.
Well, I think that's fine. Yeah,
but the top priority should not be to improve deficiencies. The top priority should be to accentuate talents.
No, I think you can improve anything. I think, but I agree. The major, like if you're a shitty shooter in the NBA, go to the gym and take, 200 jump shots.
Yeah, that's improving. That's not building around, though.
No,
I don't put Ben
that's
Simmons at
what
the
I'm
3 line
saying.
and say, all right, you got to be a 3-point shooter. I know you're not good at it, but you will be one day. So just go out there and jack. No, you can try and get better at it.
Yeah, that's
Fine.
all I'm saying, and that's what I think the Eagles are ultimately doing.
That's
Just
fair.
I think he needs to get better at it. Now, if that's the case, I'm all for it. If they're trying to build the offense around his deficiencies, I think that's the dumbest thing they've done in years.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I'm with you on that. Here's Fredo. What's up, Fredo? Member for 10 months. He says, we had a superb defense past couple of years. What specific adjustments have you been emphasizing in training camp to fix bracket-specific issue? I don't know. What, Fredo, be honest. Is that an AI question? Did you push this
Training camp doesn't even start until late July.
Maybe he's asking what adjustments would you make in training camp to fix? I don't know what. Fredo, I love you. I don't know what the hell you're asking, my dude.
The defense is, pretty good. But yeah, you need to get, always same thing. You need to get better. You need to keep improving. In the case of on paper, looks better than it was last year. I think Greenard is going to be the pass rusher they've been missing. I think Rick Woolen is as long as he can stay away from the freelancing and doesn't have those little stretches where he doesn't tackle people, because I could see Vic souring on him if some of that is early. But he's incredibly gifted. I think Jihad's better than Nakobe. I think people will be offering me mea culpas. Actually, they never do, but I think he's a better football player, and I think that's an upgrade. The one issue is safety, which they haven't been able to replace Reed Blankenship on paper yet, but there's still time. I think they'll be bringing somebody in at some point. Most likely be a trade, might even be late in August. But I think the starting safety opposite Drew McCoop is probably not here yet.
Fair enough. Good stuff. All right, Fredo, appreciate the super chat, brother. If you want to clarify what you mean, you can. I appreciate you. Jerry, thanks for your super. Anthony, thanks for your super. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. All right, don't forget to hit that like button on the show today. Good viewership in here on a Monday, May 11th. Hope
Schedule week.
Hope all the mothers out there had a great Mother's Day yesterday. Always a good day. I love my mama, so I gave her a nice little Mother's Day card. That was good stuff, and appreciate everybody again for being here. John, before we move into our last segment, we're going to talk a little bit of safeties coming into Philly, so we'll talk about some of those in the final segment of our show today. But I did want to mention, John, I'd almost feel remiss to not mention it. The Eagles had a very successful weekend for a charity that's been close to Jeffrey Lurie's heart for a long time, and that is the Eagles Autism Foundation. They raised more than $16 million for autism research and care programs over the weekend, their most successful event ever. I thought pretty amazing stuff for the Philadelphia Eagles and what they do for Eagles Autism. A good weekend for the team and for the charity side of the team.
Yeah, it was, that's a pretty cool thing for the fans who do go down there as well, to see the players up close, the ones who participate. And obviously it's very close to Jeffrey's heart and his family. So they've done a tremendous job. That's grown so much over the years to the point that it's, one of the largest autism, investments in the entire world. And the fact that the Eagles have been able to do that from a sports platform is pretty impressive, to be honest. And I know it's one of the things he's most proud of, to be, you think it's football, but that's like a really big deal to him.
What was the connection that Jeffrey originally had with autism? Was it his son, or is it somebody in his family?
It's his brother.
His brother. Okay.
Yeah. So this thing has grown to the point where it's, it funds more. When you talk about autism research, it funds more than anything else in the entire field. So and you think about where it started, and typically that's not the way things are done in research fields. It's pretty impressive, and I know it's the largest charity in the NFL from any team. So I think they went over 50 million raised since it started.
Yeah, it's
So
amazing.
think about that. So and it's become much bigger. I know they send every year after it's over, how much it generated, and they also put how much from how many countries and how many people, because it's gotten that big. It's not just local anymore. So
Yeah, it's really big, no doubt. Big to the point where there are people who, I guess, John, you'll get a kick out of this. At least maybe. I think you will. There are people who, act as if they are reporters of the team, and I saw them down there fully decked out in Eagle
it's one of the
gear,
few chances.
hats, shirts, shorts, you name it. I'm like, I don't know that you're a reporter. It's okay that you're not, or that you're a fan. That's fine. But maybe don't portray yourself as a reporter, because that's not what a reporter is,
Yeah, exactly. I don't go to that. I've never gone to that. It's, because it's not, it's just not by purview of what we do covering the team. But
yeah, but even that, there's a way to cover it, in my opinion, without participating.
yeah, well, it's an opportunity for those guys to get close to the team or close to the player. And look, to be honest, the people you're talking about are more fans, so they're excited to see the players. But the bigger thing, raise 16 million, 6,800 people from around the world, which is
crazy. It's crazy great.
240,000 donations overall since it started. 56 million are up to total. And it's funded 223 different research projects, and which is pretty impressive.
No doubt. Very impressive. John, why does it feel like there is I prefer to get my Eagles and NFL news from unbiased sources. It feels like that's changing.
Oh, you're going to go. I have no idea. It's just, I don't.
I'm an Eagle fan, though. I prefer to talk to somebody who's not going to have the delusions that come with being a fan, which I rightfully accept that they exist and are present. It feels like that's dying. I don't really understand why.
If I knew it, I would fix it. People want validation. They don't want honesty. They just want to be told that they're right and everybody's great and everything's great.
But it doesn't mean anything. Like, if a fan says the Eagles are the greatest team ever, I'm like, yeah, you're an Eagle fan. Like, that's what we all think all the time.
I can't.
But what does that mean? That doesn't mean shit to me.
Like, I mean, I don't value that, and it's frustrating. It is. Now I think we've built a community here that craves independent information.
Yeah.
I think.
There's still. That's why I come here.
But yeah, that group is, unfortunately, I think there's more on the other side.
Yeah,
it's just like, and no matter how much, when June is coming, by the way, May 11th.
Yeah, baby. What are we, 19, 20 days out from June 1st?
Yeah. And, generally when things, I can't tell you how many times all of us have been lambasted for making things up. And when it happens or something turns out to be 100% correct, which far more often is than isn't, it's just memory hold and they go on to the next thing.
Well, same thing. I mean, Jeremy Fowler is a perfect example. I mean, Jeremy Fowler earlier this summer put out stuff about A.J. Brown. Everybody attacked Jeremy Fowler as he's sucks and as an idiot. Now we have Eagles autism. AJ doesn't show up. Eagles thing, not mandatory, but the mini camp thing that they had, he didn't show up. AJ Brown is effectively no longer participating in any Eagle activity.
They don't even act. I mean, and some of the memory, like, it's almost, they draft Mekhi Lemon, which was a bit of a surprise, but if that didn't make it even more obvious, Devontae Smith is now, I see some of the people that you're talking about saying, wide receiver 1. It's like they're not yet, technically, but it's like they memory hold it.
Yeah, no
already.
Doubt. 21 days, John, until June 1st. That means 22 until June 2nd. That is the predicted. Is that the Safe Birds 365 prediction for AJ Brown trade?
No, I think it'll happen pretty quickly. Not necessarily. Like, again, I haven't looked. What is June 1st? Do we know what day?
Wait a sec. Let me pull up the calendar. June 1st is a Monday.
Yeah, it'll probably happen June 2nd. Probably.
June
but I mean,
2nd.
I'm not, if it doesn't happen right away, it could be as simple as, well, let's try to pretend we're working on it. So it's not as obvious. There could be a million things. But the bottom line is, I think it's very, very, very unlikely that AJ Brown's going to be here week 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Agreed. Johnny Mac, good stuff. All right, appreciate everybody being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. Let's move into our final segment of the day. We got about 25 minutes. Jeff Kerr was a little tied up with his father today, so hope his father is all good. His family's all good. Hopefully we'll talk to Jeff a little bit later on in the week. For those who love our Jeff Kerr segment, it'll come up a little bit later on. Johnny Mac, safety. We look at safety, and it appears to be the vast majority of Eagle commentators, of Eagle fans, and of people out there think safety is the one big hole remaining and the area that should still be addressed by the Philadelphia Eagles. When you talk about doing that, what does that mean to you, John? To what level do you think they should go to acquire a safety? How much should they be willing to spend and or trade for a safety? We'll talk about some names that might fit the bill in a second, but just kind of your perspective on how you believe Howie Roseman will handle this position. I'll tell you real quick, not to muddy the question, but my personal feeling here is I don't think Howie's gonna break his back here to acquire a safety. Do I think he'll go and get one? Sure. I do not think he's going to trade a big asset. I don't think he's going to pay huge money. I think he's somewhat comfortable with what he has. He'll look for areas to improve, but I don't think he'll go too far. What say you, Johnny Mac?
No, he's definitely going to look to improve. He said it publicly. Back before the draft, he said he expects to add multiple bodies. Now he got one with Cole Wisniewski, but a 7th round pick. That still leaves one more, which is more of, and again, I would look at more of the player for player trade market. I would look more for the expiring contract type of player who maybe hasn't developed or maybe has developed, is in that sort of place where another team says, well, we're not going to extend the guy, so let's get something while we can. Or maybe somebody who's got a surplus of safeties trading, again, for a Byron Young, surplus of defensive tackle, that type of thing, more than a splashy. I don't think it's going to be high investments from a money standpoint. But again, the best case scenario would be C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And for people looking for a name, well, who's that? Well, remember, C.J. Gardner-Johnson wasn't even a safety in New Orleans. He was a slot corner.
It's true.
So, and Vic often looks for those guys. If you look at so many of the safeties, Drew Makuba, he played slot in college, and they call it a mirror position. Guy talked about earlier in this show that nobody talks about, Brandon Johnson, slot cornerback who's played safety and started the Week 18 game. Michael Carter, they're moving to safety, who's been a long-time slot corner and one of the most expensive slot corners in the NFL at one point. they like that versatility to play in the slot and play safety, and they like coverage. So, don't dismiss slot cornerbacks around the league. They've done it in the past. They might do it again. But yeah, I think they want to get better. Now, while I say that, like I went down the defense earlier. I mean, if your weakest spot is Marcus Epps playing safety, you're fine. And everybody else, you have Jonathan Greenard and Nolan Smith and Jalex Hunt and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Moro Jomo and Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell and Tariq Woolen and Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond and Drew Makuba. I mean, you're fine. But the Eagles, Howie's Howie. He's always going to try to get better. And that's the one position on defense where he knows he can get better.
Well, that's an interesting outlook on there, Johnny Mac. I do agree with you, but where does the roster crunch come into it from a financial standpoint? I mean, obviously they have a ton of guys to pay, and they have to be disciplined in who they play or pay. You can be cheaper here because a one-year deal is off the books, pretty quickly, even though Howie will probably drop 4 or 5 void years on a one-year deal to keep it around for a little bit. But how much you think they're willing to go there? Because look, they do have a lot coming up here with the roster and paying guys and things of that nature.
Yeah, I don't think it's relevant from the cap side. They're not going out and signing some big time player or trading for some big time player. I mean, it's too late in the process. Number one, to get somebody off the street. Number two, I'm not saying they're going to trade for an all pro safety. I'm going to say they're going to trade for a potential safety that's probably entering the final year of their rookie contract. And you just get that year and you see what happens during the season. I don't think it's going to affect the cap situation much at all. Any player he brings in at this point, because they're not going to make a splash trade at safety. I don't think that's happening. I think they're looking for a CJ Gardner-Johnson type value that maybe people aren't thinking about. But no, I don't think he's going out and getting an all-pro safety.
Any names jump to mind? I know you mentioned a couple, but it's kind of hard to project, especially when you look at it from that lens, John, because then you open it up to like a lot more than just safeties. It's like, all right, any of these guys, it all depends on what the Eagles, evaluation staff and front office is thinking. But any names that you think are maybe under the radar type names? You hear a lot of the big name guys, and I don't think that's the route they're going to go. But anybody come to mind for you, John?
Well, I don't think they're signing a street free agent at this point. I'd have to look at who's available. I think, I've always liked Alohi Gilman. I don't think he's signed with anybody, but I'd have to double check. Xavier Woods, I think, is out there, unless he signed recently. He's a veteran guy that, he might be the Steve Nelson. If you remember, they signed Steve Nelson right before training camp. And, he could upgrade you right away. It's just the guy who can line up correctly. And has played a lot of football. But I think it's more likely to be the younger option that could develop into something more. I think that's the more likely option they should go to. And for those, I'm surprised we aren't yet. Move Kaylee Ringo to safety. He's not moving to safety. He's not.
Since it is Jeff Kerr Monday and we have no Jeff Kerr today, I will read you a Jeff Kerr article from Sports Illustrated about Eagles. He titles it this: Eagles need a safety, and I discovered the perfect trade candidates. I love that title from Jeff Kerr.
By the way, Gilman signed with the Chiefs, so right off the bat, double checking.
There you go.
So I've always liked him. I think he's a good player. Doesn't surprise me. Now Xavier Woods, I'm looking up. He's probably still out there. Yeah, he looks like he's still out there. Now he's 30, so obviously that would be, just that Steve Nelson type signing, I would think. But I think he could help them. So if you're looking for guys on the street, he'd probably be my top guy. But again, all right, let's see what Jeff's got.
All right, here's Jeff's. 3 candidates. John, I don't think you're going to like these names. I don't think you're going to like them.
No shock.
I'll give you one at a time. You can react. First name, Grant Delpit from the Cleveland Browns. The Browns drafted Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the 2nd round, and they already have Delpit and Ronnie Hickman to their roster. Are all 3 safeties going to play under Mike Rudenberg? How different is the scheme from Jim Schwartz? Perhaps the Eagles can scheme something up with the Browns to get Delpit, who is in the final year of a 3-year, $36 million deal. Delpit's cap hit is only $8 million too. If the Eagles want a proven starter at safety, Delpit may be the player. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little bit too expensive. Yeah, I'm not thinking that high. And the idea that, so many teams play 3 safeties now. I mean, that's another thing. Now, and if Jim Schwartz was there, you kind of know they're not going to play 3 safeties, but maybe I'll check in with Mary Kay Cabot and say where they are with Grant Delpit, because, they might want to play 3 safeties if that's the strength of their team.
Yeah.
So.
And remember, Warren is a rookie, so there's no guarantee he's out there right away.
No. Plus
2nd rounder, but
2nd rounder.
Yeah.
A lot of people had him going in the 1st round, but that doesn't matter at this stage. But he is a good player. I mean, they actually make them better. And then the style of safety, you also have to see he's a big guy. Again, Vic is generally looking for coverage. He's a bigger, more physical safety. So that factors into it as well. But he is better. I mean, if you're just talking about player, he's a good player. But that's a little bit too pricey than I think the Eagles want to go.
Fair enough. All right.
And that's if he's available.
Yeah.
And who you trade and what are you going to trade, by the way, also?
Well,
I don't think Byron Young gets the combo
earlier. Maybe you give him much against my wishes, Tanner McKee.
Yeah, they could use a quarterback. They could use a quarterback.
Let me tell you something. If they trade Tanner McKee for Grant Delpit, I'm going to be one angry dude on Birds 365 for a couple of days. Hell yeah.
That's I don't know, man. That's a proven player. I'm into proven players for teams that are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and I think the Eagles are.
That's fair, but I like to have a nice backup.
Well, you still have Andy Dalton. Again, you have that flexibility.
You feel like Andy Dalton, you feel like Andy Dalton would do the unthinkable? No. There's a small chance that either of them would.
No, yeah. I mean, if you put me in the same situation of Nick Foles again this year, in other words, if it were 2017, I'd bet against Nick Foles 99 times out of 100. Like, the assumption, because they call it lightning in a bottle, that it could happen again. Anything's possible, but lightning generally doesn't strike twice in the same spot. So all I'm looking for in a backup quarterback, can he go win me 2 games if he sprains his ankle? I believe Andy Dalton could do that.
All right. Here's the next name on Jeff Kerr's list. Ready? Trayvon Moehrig from the Carolina Panthers. He says this contract is a little
damn expensive.
I know. This contract is a little different since Moehrig is in the 2nd year of a 3-year, $51 million deal. Does Carolina even want to get out of that deal? The Panthers did draft Shaquille Wheatley in the draft, so it's possible they could look to create some cap.
Penn State.
Oh, is this Jeff Kerr giving some Penn State love?
Penn State's got to get He's got to get the backhanded Penn State love.
Yeah, so that his guy JAKIB Wheatley can get on the field.
No, they're not trading Moran. They're
right.
not. They're not penning in, not pencil, penning in JAKIB Wheatley. He's a day 3 pick. Come on.
And Morrig is a $21.8 million cap hit this year and $22 million next year. Jeff Kerr, he's on smoking that. He's smoking that good. I don't know where he got it.
This is why I don't like these things, man. And where did
I used Jeff Kerr because I'm like, Jeff Kerr will at least John will have to listen.
I had to look up JAKIB. He got picked in the 5th round. Come on. Penn State sycophant.
You better rip Jeff Kerr for that tomorrow. All right, I think that one's ruled out. That's too much. $21 and $22 million cap hits. That's not happening. Here's Buda, and then his third one is Buda Baker.
Well, I'll tell you this:
Cardinals.
Yeah, extremely high salary, and he's getting older. Boy, people love the big names, man. They just love the big names.
Even Jeff.
Well, nobody cares if you talk about people that I get it from the standpoint.
Yeah, he's got to get clicks on his article.
Yeah, I get it from the standpoint of that, but I mean, no. The best thing was when Justin Simmons actually retired, so I didn't have to read any more Justin Simmons to the Eagles. Buda Baker's always been close behind. And he's not even a fit. And again, I think people, when the Buda Baker stuff, it's been around so long because everyone just assumes, well, the Cardinals will deal him. He's a great player, but again, he's more of a movable piece. And I think Vic's looking for coverage guys, not guys who move around. Like he'd be a fit for the havoc defensive coordinators, the guys who move, the positionalist player type defensive coordinators. I think Vic's looking for more coverage safeties. So
agreed.
And how old is Buda now? He's been around forever, but he's only 30. That's amazing. He's been around since 2017. Very good player, but I don't think he's a fit, and he's still very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah, too expensive. I don't think the Eagles are going that route. But interesting stuff. We will see what the Eagles end up doing at safety. John, if I force you to put a number on it, and I'm not making you put a name on it or anything like that, but what do you think the chances are that they do make a move, a significant move that would potentially shake up the depth chart? I'm not talking about a Jacorian Bennett style trade. I'm talking about a move for a safety that's going to be your starting safety. What would you put the percentage of that happening before the season begins? So all through all the rest of the summer.
55%.
I like that. It's a good number. All right, 55% that the Eagles would acquire a
more likely than not. The starter is not here, as I've said.
All right, more likely than not, and the 55 aligns with that outlook. All right, Johnny Mac. Well, we are in the final 10 minutes of our show today. I feel like we always have great shows, especially on Monday. Normally we talk to Kerr. We didn't talk to him today, but still a lot to talk about, especially with that new Fowler report. And nobody wanted to hear. Not even you wanted to hear it, Johnny Mac.
Well, I don't think he was a report. He was on Sports Center, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was. He said it on Sports Center, but he did use the word. My sources are saying.
Well, he's already reported that. But I'm saying it's not new, is what I'm saying. And he's already reported that, which is he's more open to going under center and doing some things he's been uncomfortable with, which is good. It's a good thing. Even if it stems from the realization that, okay, the rope is not quite as long, and I have to do it, still good. Because you should be striving to get better at what you're uncomfortable with. My bigger question, I think the bigger question for Eagles fans is, what are they doing here? Are they just trying to get better at things they need to get better at, or are they trying to build an offense around what the quarterback is uncomfortable with, which is crazy to me. So until I see it, I do not believe that to be true. Doesn't make any sense. If it was, if they got that Tanner McKee deal that you want and he was the quarterback, maybe it would make sense, but doesn't make sense for where they are, other than let's try to get him better at things that we haven't done well in the past so we can present more problems to the defense. If you throw it over the field, if you're under center and you're actually throwing the ball occasionally, not running it, all these things would be tendency breakers that teams wouldn't be expecting until you put it on film.
Well, fair enough. Johnny Mac, I got to ask you here just to kind of wrap up these couple final questions about all the topics that we talked about today. Just asked you about the safety and the percentage chance of a trade. Since you think my projected Tanner McKee contract was,
I think you should call up Spot Rack and start doing it for them.
Yeah, I might be closer than they've been this year. They haven't had the best season, and they're certainly off again in the future with Jalen Carter.
Carter, man.
What they have?
The Eagles are getting a deal on Jalen.
I got to look that up again. It was like $16 million they had for Carter. Here it is, market value, $16.1 million. That's horrible. I'm canceling my premium subscription to you, Spot Rack. I think it's like $30 for the year. I'm canceling Spot Rack. I will be taking my talents over to overthecap.com. But
boy, that's
what would
brutal.
you project? Oh, it's horrible. It's got to be AI or some like a computer generated number. But what would you project the Tanner McKee contract to be then? You didn't like my 3-year, $16 million deal with 12.5 guaranteed.
No, that's he's going to bet on himself. He should. But yeah, again, does he play? Does he not play? If he plays, he's got an opportunity to just spike like you wouldn't believe. And the negative is he's got to spike down to that contract, $5 million as a backup. If it stays status quo and he's playing week 18, even that, did he play well in week 18 or did he play like he did this year in week 18, which wasn't great?
With a bunch of backups. Everyone's like, well, Tanner McKee should have had the greatest performance in the world throwing a wide receiver 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah. Well, so ultimately, I think he'll get, if it's status quo and he barely plays, I think he'll get a chance to compete for a starting job somewhere. And that probably means 10 million, 12 million. Man. If he plays, I think he'll get, and plays well, I think he'll get a Malik Willis level deal.
Which was what, like 16 mil, I think? I don't even remember.
No, it was higher than that.
Was it?
I'd have to look.
Malik Willis, dude. Malik Willis only played 5 or 6 games, John. Now
he actually played less than that. And really, he didn't throw. They got very conservative.
This dude, Sean Manion, is a quarterback whisperer. Look at Malik Willis. 3 years, $67 million. Whoa, he got 22.5.
Yeah, I think, again, and it's only got to be like a 2-3 game stretch, and it could spike to that. He only threw. He threw the ball 35 times. Is that right? Jesus. 35 times last year?
Yep.
That's crazy. But I mean, these teams are so quarterback desperate. And he's got a little bit of a better pedigree coming out of college.
I think he's got a little bit of I liked Malik Willis coming out of college. I understand, obviously, that he's got to prove it. He played at Liberty, but still, I liked him coming out. So I
Like
understand
his deal. He started at Auburn and didn't get the starting job
Right.
there, and transferred to Liberty to play.
But remember, he had like a lot of draft type. Like Tanner McKee had no draft.
Yeah,
type. There was like
he was a third round pick, and some people even thought he might go.
Give me a first. Yeah, I remember the pro day. Everybody's watching the pro day, like locked on because he's got the huge arm and he was smiling or giddy out there or something. Everybody loved that. So I remember it.
Yeah, so he had, even though Tanner played at Stanford, it was a bad Stanford team when he was there. He was a higher profile draft pick. So there's more pedigree to it with him. And he got to play a little bit in Tennessee early and didn't play well. And he's played well over the past 2 seasons when he got an opportunity to replace Jordan Love. And that's, he started 3 games in 2 seasons. He's played in 11, but a lot of that is mop up duty. And he's thrown the ball 89 times over 2 seasons. Now, very effectively. 6 touchdowns, no interception, completion percentage out the yazoo. And he
does have some good inherent skill set. Like he does have a big arm and stuff like that. So maybe somebody sees some upside there.
Well, obviously, I mean, the Dolphins are completely rebuilding, and that's like they have nothing around him other than Devin Achane. It's like, is that fair to him there? But again,
it's a low enough contract for a quarterback that you could probably load up around him over the next.
Well, and that's kind of my point with Davis Mills and Tanner McKee. And by the way, of the 3, he's third. It would go Malik Willis number 1. It would go Davis Mills number 2. It would be Tanner McKee number 3. But somebody will give him that 10 to 12 to compete. And then if he plays, it could spike to a Malik Willis level.
Yeah.
Or if he fails when playing, he could be right back to $5 million, and then you can have your backup quarterback.
Yeah, there you go. Well, just while we talk about,
would they want him?
No, probably not. While we talk about Spot Rack, I got to give you, they have a market value for Malik Willis. You want to take a stab at what it is?
Well, you already signed. Why would they still?
I know, but they still have one, and I think it's funny to say.
Well, knowing them, he got to $8 million.
It's actually going to be the opposite time this time around, John.
Wow, they always lowball people to elude.
I know. Well, not this time.
30,
35.5.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
They're on something over there.
I mean, look, their contract info is dead on. So I mean, I don't want to rip them.
That's right. That's why I think the value is just like a computer generated. Like they list comparable players. They have Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. That's where I'm like,
well, how are they comparable? They've all played.
That's what I mean. But I think they just take contracts in a system and it just makes a computer generated number.
Well, but how do you get to Jalen Carter at $16 million, even if that's the case?
Well, they put the comps for Jalen Carter at like OSA. Who'd they put their comps for Jalen Carter? I'll read them to you. Jalen Carter, market value, 16.1. Comparable players. Jonathan Allen, who got a 2-year, $25 million deal. BJ Hill, who got a 3-year, $33 million deal. Osa Odigizua, who got a 4-year, $80 million deal. And Dexter Lawrence, who got a 1-year, $28 million deal.
I don't know. Jonathan Allen is 31 years old. I mean, he was a tremendous player earlier in his career, and he still got decent money because he's still a good player. But I mean, he's 31.
It's a horrible comp.
And who was the second guy? BJ Hill?
BJ Hill's 29.
Yeah, what the
fuck?
Or
was 29 when he signed.
I mean, yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like I use Spot Rack for the contract info. That's it.
Yeah, they're good for contract info, not so good on projection.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, we learned that. And I don't even blame him for Jordan Davis because
at this point I'm just saying it kind of to have fun with it because we've talked about it.
The Eagles went off the reservation with Jordan Davis, but So I don't blame anybody for getting that one wrong, but they got somebody else crazily wrong. And I'm
Phillips, right?
Yeah,
Phillips.
Phillips. Yeah, Phillips. They had Phillips at like 13 now. I'm like, what are you talking about?
All right, John. Good stuff. Your final thoughts here on a Monday edition of Birds 365, my friend.
Yeah, schedule week. Get ready. The leaks will come, obviously the networks will start leaking things early for the international games. I think are coming Wednesday. So you get to see if the Eagles are going overseas. They will not give up a home game. So if they're going, they'll have to be the road team.
Do you think the Eagles will start on the road or at home?
Oh, I don't know.
Doesn't
I'm
matter.
going to start trying to contact some people about the schedule today. They've started on the road recently, haven't they?
Well, they were in Brazil the year they won it, right? And then they were last year they were home, obviously, versus the Cowboys on the Thursday night opener, which is now Wednesday night, everybody.
Well, there you go. That's 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. Even though Brazil was obviously not at home, that was a home game, and Cowboys is a home game, so probably on the road this year. There you go.
Fair enough. Johnny Mac, great show, my friend. I will catch up with you tomorrow on a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. See y'all.
All right. Thanks, J Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining me right here on Birds 365. Great show today. A lot of good commentary, a lot of good conversation on the new report from Jeremy Fowler on Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion. They're clicking. They're hitting it off, apparently, folks. I will not be as doomer on McMullen about that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing when you hear that Jalen Hurts and Sean Manion have had a good start to their relationship, whatever that means. I don't know that it means that much, but I'm happy about it, or at least I like to see it, like to hear it. Jason, I know you're a little down bad. He says, sad weekend for Philly sports. Yeah, tough double sweeps, Jace. We went from the high of 2 teams making the second round to double sweeps. Philadelphia, go home. You're not ready yet. All right. That's what I heard all weekend. Brandon, what's up, dude? Larry and Howie know how to build hype for the season. What's up, Brandon? Well, we'll see, guys. I do not have a lot of time on Zander time today. I know you will be upset by that, but I have to produce a show that's going to be up at noon. So I have to go and do that right now. And then I have some meetings. So I meant to ask John on the show. I wonder if John got my wedding invite. I forgot that. I got to ask him tomorrow on the show. Maybe he'll get it today. I got to tell him what I told Cilio. No pressure. Do you guys remember back in December? Cilio was like, I'm getting the invite to the wedding, right? He asked me that on the air. I'm like, of course you're getting invited to my wedding. I'm coming for Zander's wedding. Last week I asked him. He's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming out of the Dan cave. I don't know if I'm leaving the Dan cave. If those 2 guys are a no, I'm inviting 2 chat members. We'll raffle them off. We'll raffle off the. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it's that worth it. I wouldn't do that. But pretty funny. My honeymoon's in Italy, Rasputin. My honeymoon's in Italy. The honeymoon is in Italy. Now I had to swipe the card for a fat payment for the Italy honeymoon. I just told you can book the flights, please do it all for me. I'm not good at that travel stuff. Here's the card, Take the card and let me know the details. I'm actually looking forward to that. I've never traveled outside the country. I've traveled. That's wrong. I've never traveled to Europe. I've never traveled outside the only time I've ever left America was when I was in playing hockey as a youth hockey. And I did travel hockey. I was on a AAA team. We went to Canada every year. So I went to Canada a bunch, but we always drove to Canada. And then I went to Mont Tremblant before, which is a ski area in where is that? Quebec or Ontario or Toronto? I don't fucking know. Canada at all. It's all one to me. You go to Canada or you don't, So I've only ever been to Canada. I've never been to Europe, never been over there. So I'm excited for that. Should be good. Pumper says my hat looks. Hey, Pumper. Fuck off. This was a birthday present from my father, and I fucking love it. How about that, Pump? How about that? I love this lid. Actually, an elite hat. Are you kidding me? This hat is sick. And was a birthday gift from my pops. I got it yesterday. He gave it to me yesterday. I said, thank you, Pops. I love it, dude. So I appreciate him for that. Bonnie says, Zander Krause, the Seahawks Super Bowl was so done and gone, didn't even get a home opener week 1. Wait, they did it? No, they did, right there. Or no, they do, right, Bonnie? Pumper's always jealous of your boy Big Z. That's all right. That's all right. No problem. He can be jealous. Billy Todd, Dave, just got back from Paris and Rome. How was it, bro? What do you think? How was it? No, Bonnie, I think that's the Thursday. Is that the Thursday game? Week 14 bye week for the Eagles? Oof. Wait, I thought the Giants and the Cowboys was the Thursday game. Oh, no, that's Sunday night. That's Sunday night, the first Sunday night football game. It was amazing with the attack. Yeah, I might get one of the little Fiats from over there. Bang some gears in Italy. It'd be fun. Yeah, it's Sunday night. Italy. So I'm going 3 or 4 days. I don't know exactly the schedule, honestly. The travel lady sent me the thing. I didn't look at it fully yet. Again, I just swiped the card, and I know I'm gonna have a good time with my soon-to-be wife. But we're going to Rome. That was my only request, is that if I'm going to Italy, I want to go to Rome. I've never been to Italy. I love Rome. I love the Catholic faith. I love the Vatican. I love all those different things. So I requested Rome. So we're doing 3 days, I think, in Rome. And then we're doing 8 days, I think, in multiple different places on the Amalfi Coast. So we're doing the Amalfi Coast in Rome. And then we're doing like a day trip to Capri. I think we'll probably visit Positano, Sorrento, Praiano. We're doing a bunch. Yeah. It kind of gets like progressively more relaxing, the trip, which I think is a good thing. Rome will probably walk all around. Yeah, Sistine Chapel's on the itinerary for sure. We got the full Vatican tour. We did the morning tour at the Vatican. So if you get there early, they let you in. So it's like there's no tourist in there. So like 7 a.m. we'll be up and going, which is going to be awesome. And then we'll do that. We're trying to get the marriage blessed by the Pope, but it all hinges on his schedule. So we won't know until closer to the thing, but we did put in our name for that. So we'll see. If the Pope's in Rome when I'm there, we should get that. We are at the top. We are on that list. So hopefully that would be pretty cool. Yeah, it's sick. So the Pope has obviously a schedule, so who knows? Some advice for the Pope. What do you want? Maya, what do you want me to tell him, brother? I'll give some advice to him. I get a kick out of people who think that the Holy Father of the Catholic Church should align politically with whatever the said president of the United States is. I'm like, are you guys delusional? Like, should anybody really think that Pope Leo should have the same outlook on war and immigration and all these different things that as the president of America? I mean, come on. They're not going to have the same outlook. In fact, they should almost always disagree on stuff like that. But it is what it is. You know how people are. People are small brains. They're pea brains. Yeah, but what's up, dude? Good to see you, man. The Vatican was too much for my ADD brain. Nah, it won't be too much for me. Angela says, it's good that you feel that way about your father. You should appreciate everything your parents do because one day it's too late. Yeah, no doubt, Angela. I love both my parents very much so. Great. We have a very strong family unit. especially my siblings and I, and my parents, but there's not many. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for you. I hope all of you guys have good. Like, I can't speak for people, but just my perspective, my personal experience in my life is, I know I have a lot of friends, a lot of people that I grew up with, and when they got out of college or when they went to college or when they got older, a lot of them like don't want to hang out with their parents or with their families. You know, it's almost like, oh, I got to go see my parents. It's like, that's never been me or any of my siblings. We love to hang out with our parents, with our siblings, with each other. In fact, that's our preferred use of our free time. You know, and I think that's always a good thing. That tells you about my parents. You know, if all of their adult children still want to spend an ample amount of time with them, to me, that tells you how great of, you know, parents that they were to us, is that we all love them very much. We're all very close, very tight knit. There's no jealousy in my family. There's not, you know, I've seen a lot of families where that exists, where siblings don't get along. There's jealousy. There's animosity between, you know, parents. It's weird. So I've always been blessed to have a great family unit. And yeah, I love my family, no doubt. It's decked out to an absurd. Yeah, well, Curtis, remember, I love my Catholic faith, so I know a lot about a lot of that. I know you're not. We've talked about that before, but I will appreciate it probably at a different level than someone like you who maybe doesn't care as much about that, which is fine, which is kind of part of life, right? But yeah, I'm super excited for that reason. Hat reminds me of Rasheed Wallace. This is a sick hat. You guys are all haters. You guys are all haters. Hat is literally fire. In fact, Pumper is literally on Kango.com, maybe picking up one of these hats. That's why he projected. Jason said, I don't know why there was an American Pope in the first place. Who knows, dude? Who knows? I think maybe there were some reasons for that. Who knows what they are? I wouldn't wish that hat on my worst enemy. This hat is literally electric, Pumper. It's very fucking electric. In fact, it's the reason you're still here, is that you're watching this elite lid. That matches, by the way, it matches the black Kango t-shirt with the red Kango logo on it. Are you kidding me? Well, Reyes, that was kind of the point. It's like, my dad's like, you can rock that hat in Italy. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll rock the hat in Italy. Colts week 1, is that what we're hearing? I wouldn't hate that. We'll take them to the cleaners. We'll take them to the cleaners. Or are you just saying that because ESP predicted it? Or did there something come out? Who knows? Who knows? All right, I got to run. I got to go produce a show. All right, guys, I thought we had a great show. All right. I thought we had a great show today. A lot of good topics. Tanner, safety, Jalen in the offense, you know, and apparently him and Sean Manion are kind of in full lockstep. So I think that's a good thing. But we will see how it kind of all shakes out, everybody. I do appreciate all you guys tuning in today. I got to run, got to do some production here for Krause's Eagles Daily Show. So let me go and produce that. I'll have that posted up on the channel. So make sure you check out noon on the channel. I will post that segment. I'm excited. It's the debut, so we still have some things to work out. It'll get better, I think, as it goes along. Whenever you do a new show or do a new thing, you know, you got to work through the beginning stages of it, kind of find find what works and what doesn't, and then go from there. But I'm going to go and do that now. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in today. Hit that like button, and I will see you next time, everybody.